Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6th Ave Storytelling. In 2020, we launched a marketing company on a mission to encourage entrepreneurship and make starting and growing a small business easier than ever before. Since then, we have helped hundreds of small businesses and entrepreneurs grow their brands by giving them the tools, resources, strategy, and support they need to craft and share their stories. If you are thinking about launching and growing your own brand, schedule a meetup with me today. I would love to talk to you. Head over to 6thAveStorytelling.com and let me show you how the storytelling approach can transform your marketing strategy. This episode is sponsored in part by Pre-Kindle, the platform designed to empower event creators to develop the best experiences possible for their communities. Did you know that Pre-Kindle was actually founded in DFW and is still headquarters in Dallas? Well, now you do. We love local businesses, and Pre-Kindle is one of the best. With a best-in-class platform of features, no long-term contracts, low service fees, responsive mobile-friendly event pages, and friendly and attentive support, Pre-Kindle is my personal favorite ticketing and marketing platform for any event. Anytime I'm planning something with my band, Green River Ordinance, Pre-Kindle is our go-to platform to use. With an impressive roster of event creators, venues, and entertainment destinations across the nation, Pre-Kindle is hands down the best. In DFW alone, they've partnered with incredible spaces like the Granada Theater, Panther Island Pavilion, the Kessler, Will Rogers Coliseum, the Fort Worth Modern, Tulips, Risley Theater, and more. If you have been to an event or venue in DFW, I promise you have likely been using Pre-Kindle and you didn't even know it. Beyond ticketing, Pre-Kindle also helps automatically promote your event. With over 500,000 subscribers in North Texas and partnerships with event discovery sites like Bands in Town, Spotify, Google, they're set up to also help you spread the word. So go to prekindle.com, that's PREKINDLE.com, and click Get Started to begin using the platform. They are on a mission to bring your event to life. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice. I have a very, very special guest today, Alex Snodgrass. I am so pumped you are here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You have built a massive, crazy, cool brand. So I'm going to read your bio real quick.
Go for it.
In front of you. I warned you about that. Alex Snodgrass is a recipe developer, food stylist, health enthusiast, and founder of the popular blog and social media outlet, The Defined Dish. Her first book, The Defined Dish, and her second book, The Comfortable Kitchen, were both instant New York Times bestsellers. They debuted on the charts, right?
Yes, they did.
That's pretty freaking cool. Her recipes use nourishing ingredients and are known for being simple, easy, and full of flavor. In 2018, she was recognized as the finalist in the prestigious Savor Magazine Blog Awards in the category of Most Inspired Weeknight Meals. I can say that's true. You win that in my house as well.
Thank you.
A graduate of Texas Christian University. That's why you're here.
Go Frogs.
Fort Worth connection. You're in Dallas, but ties to Fort Worth.
Lots of ties.
You live in Dallas with her husband and two young daughters. How old are your kids?
Sutton is 9 and Winnie is 7.
Oh, man. We're going to talk about them here in a little bit. She's been featured in Forbes, USA Today, Magnolia Journal. She's appeared on Good Morning America. She recently launched, literally last week, SideDish, which is what's the
It's a multi-purpose salad dressing.
A multi-purpose, but what's the term? It's a consumer good.
Oh. It's like a CPG brand.
CPG.
Yeah.
I was kept reading about it. I was like, it's CPG.
Yes. New word for me too.
Yeah. which is a salad dressing collection, multi-purpose salad dressing collection, which launched last week, and that's going to be in stores. It's a big deal, and they're all Whole30 approved.
2 of them are. One of them's paleo because it has honey in it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but it's
Close.
all dairy free, paleo friendly, preservative free.
Yes, all good ingredients.
And that's sort of
a big new baby.
a big new baby. So I am so excited you're here. I think where I want to start out, and one of the things that is so interesting to me is I feel like your brand has become almost like synonymous with like a slang term in the house. Almost like, can I get a Coke? You don't really mean a Coke, like it's soda, So if you're in the South, it's like Coke. And so I feel like, at least in my bubble, it's like, what do we have tonight? Oh, it's Defined Dish.
I love that.
It's a Defined.
I like your bubble.
It's a thing. It's like, this is a Costco size water cup. It's not. I didn't really get this at Costco, but that's the slang.
I get what you mean. Yes,
like it's such a phenomenon. Like that's just like I told you I was in on vacation over the weekend and came back last night, and my friend, the other dad I was with, was like, who talking about the podcast and who's coming up, and I was like, oh, Alex Snodgrass, she has the Defined. He's like, that's what we eat at my house every night. My wife's always. I feel like if you're in my like sort of this, I don't know who your demographic is, but in my world, it's literally like.
Well, I'm glad to be part of your dinner table. That's really the whole purpose of it all.
But do you feel like it's a thing in the way that like Coke is this thing? It's like we're going.
I don't think I realized I was as big as Coca-Cola, but
I feel like. Do you get that at all? Like
no, I mean I definitely do, especially like in our bubbles around the Metroplex. I feel like even more so, people have got on the Defined Dish train, and I love it. My goal is to make weeknight cooking and just cooking for your family and just getting dinner on the table easier. And I can see that by meeting people all over. They say the same thing. They're like, "Oh, I eat your food all the time, every night," and that's really the goal.
That wasn't like a thing, like the sort of healthy but good and savory, and you tapped into something really special and unique, and then like dominated it.
Oh, thank you.
Did you set like when you started this, like, did you set out to make a brand like this? Like,
it's kind of an evolution of sorts. But, when I first started, it was like, okay, I needed something. I thought this would be a fun hobby for me. I was kind of in the throes of, right after I had Sutton, I was just kind of having postpartum anxiety. Like, what am I doing with my life? And so it was a really good stepping stone for me to just kind of have a creative outlet. Thought it would be fun. Like, maybe this could be a thing. Then kind of fast forward 2 years.
It was like a side hustle. It was like, this is just
total side hustle.
Or a hobby. It probably wasn't even hustle at the time.
Yeah. There was no, was there
a hustle?
There was no money being made.
Okay.
Let's just say we were in the red because I was spending more money on groceries than anybody was looking at my blog. But I think like 2 years in, my sister and I had originally started together as a food and fitness blog. That's why it's called The Defined Dish. But we kind of were just doing it as more of a side hobby, and both were still doing other things. And I realized I really like this. This has given me a lot of joy. I have a lot of passion for it. I think if I like really figured out how to take better photos and, get the website looking better, because it was horrible at the time, potentially this could be a thing. And so a
thing meaning like
I could make it a business,
but
I could potentially make this a business,
but no global like ambitions to take over.
No, I wasn't trying to take over the world.
Okay, but this could be a business because people.
I was just like, maybe I could create an income doing what I love, and
people were like, I like the dishes you're making.
Yeah, the people that were, familiar with me and my recipes, which was really just like, college friends that told their college friends. It was kind of, word gets out. It was all word of mouth. I had a very small audience, but I knew people were having success with the recipes and they were enjoying them. But the problem was my food photos were trash. It looked like I was in a dungeon taking photos of food. And, there's just such an art to it to bring that appeal to a wider audience to, if they're not familiar with you, to see it on Pinterest and be like, oh, that looks appetizing. I really want to make this recipe. And there's all the little things that you can do better to make your website perform more efficiently. So,
But you were, okay, I wrote it. You were a history and political science major.
yes.
So not marketing, not
No.
graphic design or photography or any of that stuff.
No, just a self-promoter.
Were you a self-promoter? Did
No.
you
No, I just honestly love food and I love
Okay.
cooking. Like, I
But
think
you
that's really the root of it.
But you had to learn, like you said, photography, and did you make
Oh,
your
yes.
own website?
This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Visit Fort Worth. Visit Fort Worth is the official destination marketing organization of the 13th largest city, and I would say the greatest city in the United States, dedicated to promoting Fort Worth as a premier business and leisure destination with thriving centers of creativity, culture, and commerce. Visit Fort Worth is the parent organization of the Fort Worth Herd, the Fort Worth Film Commission, Fort Worth Sports Commission, Visita Fort Worth, and Music Initiative Here Fort Worth. They are doing a lot of amazing things. For more information on Visit Fort Worth, head over to visitfortworth.com and follow them on social at Visit Fort Worth. This episode is sponsored by the Fort Worth Business Press. As a Fort Worth entrepreneur and small business owner, the Business Press is my favorite source for news and updates about the entrepreneurial community in and around Fort Worth. I read their email newsletter literally every day. It's always full of insights and stories that really matter. Are you ready to be more connected? Sign up for their free newsletter at fortworthbusinesspress.com. But if you're like me and the newsletter just isn't enough, you can become an insider. With the code STORYTELLING10, all one word, you'll get a discount on the insider membership. Insiders receive exclusive access to special content, 24 issues of the Business Press delivered to your door each year, and discounts on event registrations and more. Join me and the Fort Worth Business Press in staying up to date on the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth.
You hired
No,
somebody?
I did not build my own website. That's where I draw the line. But, with WordPress, you can really kind of create something pretty.
things.
Yeah, you have a baseline. And then I brought like a web developer on to kind of help me clean it up and organize it the way I wanted to. And I had like a branding done for just like my original logo and those types of things. So
But
that
no-
was really all I
But I'm
put money
assuming
into.
no one taught you that.
No, and that's the beauty about YouTube these days. You can learn to take better food photos really quickly. There's a lot of like online ways to do it. Now I outsource all those things and have like a food photographer that I send my recipes to. I just take a picture with my phone and she shoots recipes. We can get to all that fun stuff
Oh,
later.
she like makes the dish?
Yeah, and she shoots them for me.
Oh,
It's like
really?
all outsourced. So
That's
I used to do that all. Up until really last year around this time, I would shoot all my own recipes. But then I realized I
So
could
you bought a
be
camera?
spending. Yeah, I have a nice camera.
Okay.
I did the whole.
So you
kit and
bought
caboodle.
a camera and you were like making recipes and throwing it on the blog and throwing it
Yeah.
on Instagram,
hmm
and then it kind of grew into this.
Yeah, and then the books came, and then everything, kind of evolved, and I realized I could be doing things more efficiently, like outsourcing photography.
Mhm.
It's worth every penny.
Yeah, that
And
yeah.
she lives in the UK. Totally random.
Oh, that is super random.
Yeah.
So you literally say, "I have a new recipe."
So we have a whole system. I put it like in a spreadsheet.
Here's what
I'm
it's
like,
supposed to
here's
look
the
like.
link to the recipe. Here's like just how I played it, so that you can plate it similarly, where it's not like
Yeah.
where she's just reading a recipe and like, wait, how does she want it styled? So she can see those two things, and then I'll give her any notes like, hey, will you, make sure the sauce is peeking on the side, so that really kind of shows, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then she runs with it. At first it was kind of like her getting to know my style and whatnot, but now I send her the recipes and she,
And what a crazy thing, like
Does it
you
so
have
well.
your own style, like food
Yeah.
style.
I have a food stylist photographer, and her name's Sasha. She lives in the UK and she's phenomenal.
That's so. What I think it's interesting about your journey and store, like the books. The books, I'm assuming, was the moment it kind of
That I realized like, wow, I really have something.
yeah like that's
Yeah.
like so like you when you have a book, you have authority. Like now there's this real thing and people are buying it, and I'm on the. But I think what's interesting about your story and journey is like when you think about cookbooks, at least traditionally, it's generally like a chef.
Yes.
Or someone that's had a restaurant, or someone that has
Yep.
and you kind of came at it from this
blog world.
blog. And had anybody ever done that?
Yes, it's becoming very, very prevalent now. But at the time, I feel like it was just starting to become more popular, and publishers were having good luck with it, but also really bad luck with it. And sometimes it just didn't translate. And so I remember going through that negotiation process and then being like, hopefully this is a win, but we just want to sell at least this amount. And I squashed that number by a long shot.
Really? How can I ask you how many books you've sold?
My first book, we've sold over 200,000.
Wow.
My second book, over like 150.
That's so crazy. That's so many people.
Yes, people love the books. And I think the difference is, I think people love cookbooks in general, or if you're someone that loves food, but there's the books that you collect that you love that sit on the shelves and you still, admire them and might want to flip through. But with my first book, I was like, I'm not like a famous chef, so I don't really have that. I don't have that option to just like be a book on someone's shelves. Like it needs to be
good.
A cookable, awesome book that people can really use every night of the week, just like my blog. So I was like, it really needs to be. I don't need to overthink this. I need it to make it an extension of my blog, to where it is your, everyday weeknight dinners. And so I did what I did best on the blog, and I just put it in book format, and obviously put a lot more blood, sweat, and tears into it. And it worked.
Did you have like? I think I read that you were approached by a publishing company, right?
Yes. At that time, I was doing so many Whole30 recipes.
Okay.
And the publisher that did the Whole30 books approached me. I now work with a different publisher.
But did you have an ambition to have a book? Like
I did.
You did. So you're like, I wanted this thing.
So probably like a year before that, I was like, I really want to do a cookbook one day. But I didn't know really what to do, where to start. And at that point I didn't have now I have like a manager and some other things that really help guide me whenever I.
Do you have a manager? Do you have an agent? Is there an agent?
She's kind of is an agent in a way.
And
I have a literary agent, and I have a manager, and I have Katie.
Okay.
Those are kind of like my three biggies.
Okay.
And then I outsource things like my food photography and things like that to help kind of build the team from a wider point of view.
Yeah, but that's a small team for as big of
small and mighty
of a footprint as you have. Like,
yeah.
So you said I want to do a book.
Okay, and so then I kind of started to ask friends and family that might know something. Just kind of like my uncle, who just is one of those kind of catch-all people. I was like, "How can I write a book?" He's like, "Well, you could self-publish, you could publish." So I was just kind of exploring options and thinking about it and looking into it, and then I got approached very soon after about doing a book. So it all kind of fell into place.
And when that happened,
magically.
Did they email you or call you? Or?
She called me. It was actually the literary agent for kind of some of the Whole30 realm books, and asked me if I was interested in doing the next Whole30 endorsed book. And I was like, absolutely. How do we talk about this more? And so the rest was kind of history.
And did you anticipate it being as big, like the success of that? Like by then you
I didn't think it was going to be that big.
You had a following. You had you had a big following.
Yeah.
Your blog. I'm assuming lots of people are going to the blogs.
Yes.
But then for someone to buy this, and books
for
are
sure. Like I'd never sold anything, like other than like doing some Instagram ads and stuff that like weren't my own, just like things that I endorse. But I mean, this was like my first thing to present to my community and say, hey, if you love my recipes, you're going to love this book. And they all went and supported me. I have such an amazing community. And then I think from there, it was just word of mouth and the accessibility of cooking those recipes. Like you said, they're just easy to make meals that everyone can cook.
Do you think it's because it's easy? Like, because I think about like we have, I don't know how many cookbooks I have in my house. Most of them are on a shelf. Yours literally like sits by our stove, and I was looking at it last night.
She's meant to cook,
and it's like kind of there's like stains on it and stuff.
Yes, for sure. I love a messy book.
Yeah, but like there's something that happened with yours where it's like people just latched onto it.
I think the difference. I think my recipes are healthy, but they're not like rabbit food. I think all of our lives we've grown up around either like really unhealthy food that's super comforting, or we have like the really light salads and stuff.
And so you tapped into this niche.
I'm like, well, let's make the things that we all love. I mean, I'm just one of those people that, probably it's the Texan in me. I want to feel full whenever I'm done eating.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Amen to that. Yeah.
I don't like a little stomach growl after I'm done eating. So I really like to feel full. I really like to be like slammed with flavor. I don't like a boring meal. It's a
Mhm.
problem. I can't eat anything that doesn't taste fantastic or else I didn't eat. And so I wanted to create these recipes that were, I have kids. I don't want them to take forever. I do love, taking a Sunday to like make a bolognese that's going to stew for 4 hours. But for the most part, I'm like everybody else. I'm like, okay, I don't want to dirty up that many dishes. I don't
Yeah.
want to do, all the things that are stressful about cooking. So how can I get those big flavors and make it healthier and make it cozy and comforting?
And that was the niche. And
Yeah.
nobody, granted, I may be naive in saying nobody was
Yeah,
doing
there's
that.
other people out there, but
you kind of like tapped into this thing that just resonated. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just resonated with people. I remember my wife is probably going to kill me for telling this story, but we were, the first time I heard your name, we were at, I think it was at Fortress Festival, which was like this
oh yeah,
Fort Worth music festival. I was
Yes.
like, that's Alex Snodgrass. She's this Instagram food person. And
Yeah.
I was like, go say hi. And she's like, no. She's like, she doesn't know me.
Did she?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I'm the person that's always like, just go say hi. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go talk to whoever. But that was the first time. And then shortly thereafter, I think that was definitely before the book came out. And then Kristen Kilpatrick was my neighbor.
Oh, nice.
They lived down the cul-de-sac from me. And
Love it.
I remember she was posting pictures, I guess, shooting for the book.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like, anyways, and then it became this thing that really resonated. Let's talk just like your background. You're from Salina,
Yes.
which is a small, it's close to Dallas. It's almost,
Yeah, it's close enough.
it's
Small
almost-
town, city conveniences.
but it's still kind of a small town.
Yeah.
And were you cooking? Your mom cooked a lot, is what I've.
Well, Salina is close to Dallas, but it's
Okay.
not like close enough to where you're just like going to go grab dinner, Like it's like we're going to drive
And there's not
to
a
Dallas
ton
or
of
Frisco.
restaurants in Salina, I'm
No,
assuming.
we had like Burger Vixens and Jimbo's. It was like more like a lunch thing, or if you wanted pizza. So growing up, it was just like I just grew up around home cooking. So
Yeah.
I think for me,
Were you a picky eater as a kid, or did you like
No.
everything?
no, I think my parents, now looking back at it, they were the picky ones. I just ate their food. But
Uh-huh.
my mom was a very good cook, still is. And she just always was making home cooked meals. And so I just kind of grew up with that. And so when I got to college and then I was eating out all the time, that was just so not normal for me. It was fun for a minute. And then I was like, I just want to like be at home.
Okay, so
And
you didn't
sit around the
you
table
weren't
and
you
eat.
weren't used to eating out all the time.
No, not
Okay.
at all. And it's just, I am a homebody too at my core. And that's probably from being from a small town too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just be like, I just don't want to have to go out to get my food. Like I want to be able to make something simple here. So I started really cooking my sophomore year of college because,
Were you in a dorm?
well, not my freshman year. That was
Okay.
dorm. So I was eating out all the time.
Yeah, sophomore year, like you're in a house or apartment. Or
Yes,
something.
I was in an apartment. So
Okay.
I kind of started to cook at my apartment. And then by my junior year, I was in a house. And then I really started to cook. I would go grocery shopping every week. I'd make stuff for me and my roommates.
And when your friends or roommates come over, like,
Yeah, my roommates got to eat all the things. And so then like after college,
and were you following recipes or were you making stuff up?
both.
Okay.
I would call my mom. Like I remember my sophomore year, I would call my mom and be like, all right, how do you make your chili? And she would just be like, mom, say like, okay, well, first take a can of diced tomatoes. Like I'd be like writing it down. And so I'd kind of like loosely take what I watched her doing, loosely take what she told me. And then eventually I'd kind of start developing my own flavors. But then
Mhm.
also I was watching a lot of Food Network, huge fan of Ina Garten. And so I
Okay.
feel like she also taught me a lot about cooking. So if I ever got really adventurous and I was like, oh, tonight I'm going to make like a nice dinner.
Mhm.
I remember at one point in college making like this like lobster paella. I was
Oh
like,
my
way,
gosh,
I bit
yeah.
off way more than I could chew, but it was one of her recipes. I followed it. It was like one of those really fancy meals, like the first time I really made
That's
something
intense for a college kid.
super
yeah.
bougie.
Uh-huh.
And it was really fun. And so I was always
And was
experimenting.
it like a dinner party? Was it like
Yeah,
come
I
over
remember.
and kind of dress up?
Yeah,
and,
I just kind of had everyone over for some lobster paella.
casual.
It's a great recipe. So I remember doing some of those things like that, but for the most part, I was like making a big pot of chili or
Mhm.
making a quick stir fry and things of that nature.
Can you take me into your personality a little bit, like how your brain, like, are you? So my assumption is you're one of two things. You're either I follow directions to the T and I'm very detailed, or you're like, screw the directions.
Katie's over there laughing. I'm very not detail oriented.
So you're like, forget the directions.
Yeah, like I can go on.
I'm going to make my own thing.
Yes.
So you're
sure.
like a pinch of this and a.
Yes. And so it's definitely been a learning curve for me, especially with like my first book. It's like I went from blog writing recipes and I'd be like, oh, that was probably like a tablespoon. And working with my editor and him being like half an onion. What do you mean half an onion? Like you need to measure this or be like half of a small onion.
Oh,
thinly,
yeah. There's
like
a lot
finely
of
diced.
half an onion can mean a bunch of different things.
And diced is a really broad term too. Is it diced fine? Is it diced medium? Are you dicing it large? Like, because if you tell someone that's never cooked before to dice onion to go in a meatball, for example.
Okay.
And they dice it big, it's going to be a porcupine meatball.
Okay. Interesting.
So, like, you really kind of have to think about, like, and then someone that's more, knows what they're doing in the kitchen would be like, I obviously need to dice this really small.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things as someone who loves cooking and wasn't a really, a recipe developer by like trade and no one ever taught me. I was really loose.
Recipe developer is different than you're making a great meal. You're like, now you got to.
Yes.
Give
and
people
so
instructions.
I really learned how to, with my first book, properly write a recipe and be super detailed. And now I'm very detailed with my recipes. And so I feel like with my first book and now with my blog recipes, there's way less room for error.
Mm-hmm.
So you live, you learn on that one. But yes, I'm not detail oriented.
So not detailed, and you're creative, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Because you're like, I'm trying things.
Yes.
And I would assume you're patient because cooking takes a long time.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty patient.
Like you have the patience to sit and.
Yeah, but I'm really not a huge baker, so that's where my patience kind of stops.
Not a baker because baking is a different beast. Right?
Yeah, too scientific for me.
Okay, is it really? So that's too many details.
Yeah, like sometimes I'm in the mood for it, but I have to like know when baking is in my mood.
Okay, so but patient enough to like. And then
for sure, and trial and error things, and be like, okay, this is really good, but next time I could do it this way, and it could be better.
And so to be that, you can't care that much if it goes wrong. If you're experimenting and
and that's I think the problem with so many like new home cooks too. I think they have things go wrong in the kitchen. We all do. I do, and I think that they're just like, oh, I'm a bad cook, and it's like, even if you're following a recipe and you are not familiar with like the stove and the temperatures that your stove works with, and like. Just in general, I think cooking is one of those trial and error things that you really have to like get that feel down. And you have to be willing to not have the perfect meal sometimes and have a big flop and be like, okay, I know why this went wrong. It's because this said to do room temperature eggs and like I went straight out the fridge maybe.
And
maybe
there's that makes a big difference.
Well, that would be in baking, but not in savory cooking. So.
I am not detailed enough to do.
No.
Even while following your directions, it's like hard for me because I just.
You want to riff.
Like, yeah. I'm not allowed in our house to like, because I don't measure.
Go on a whim.
I just like start going to town.
Yeah.
But so you like, I don't know if experimenting is the word. Like,
yeah. Well, I think.
Were you like I have an idea?
I think it's multiple things. I think one, I did my first Whole30. And
this is after the baby.
This is after the baby, after kind of the blog got started.
Okay.
But like somewhere in the middle before I turned it into a business.
Okay. So you're
I'm like 1 year in.
1 year in.
Playing with my hobby.
So you're making recipes.
But I did my first Whole30. I was, like I said, I was kind of struggling with anxiety, and my sister had done a Whole30 because like I said, she was a personal trainer and she would always do that kind of stuff. And she was like, I feel really good. My mental clarity is amazing. I really think you should try this. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And, after a couple of days of like doing grilled chicken and broccoli or like cauliflower rice, fine. But 3 days in, I was like, I need something fun. I need to be wowed with flavor. So it was like, I could probably make a soup that's pretty similar to gumbo, and like, it's not going to be a traditional roux, but I could probably use this new thing I've discovered called arrowroot flour and like, make the soup thicker where it has looks like a gumbo, acts like a gumbo, walks like a gumbo, but isn't really a gumbo.
But even to make a gumbo, that's a pretty like adventurous meal.
So it's like I realized I'm like, where there's a will, there's a way. You can really and it could be inspired by gumbo, and you can make these flavors that come into play into this Whole30 world that doesn't necessarily have to be, there's always the authentic way of making something that still stands alone and is the best. But there's also really fun ways to make it that are, quicker, easier, and just as delicious. And I feel like I realized that doing my first Whole30, it was like, I really had a craving for X, so I'm going to try to make it and let's see how close I can get. So it kind of became this like fun little cat and mouse game that I played with myself.
Are you a small business owner or an entrepreneur? Do you do marketing for a small business? If so, I have something that I want to give you, and it's totally for free. We've put together a free resource at 6appstorytelling.com/download. And it's the secrets, it's the tips, it's the tricks, it's the tools of the trade. It's literally everything we do at 6app Storytelling to help small businesses grow. Go download it today at 6appstorytelling.com/download. This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by TCU Neely Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. They're ranked as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the country, and they live by the Neely promise to unleash human potential with leadership at the core and innovation in our spirit. The Institute has recently launched the Horned Frog Investment Network, which leverages the expertise and experience of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investment professionals. They source, evaluate, and invest in the next generation of innovators. Crazy cool. And as an entrepreneur myself, I know the importance of finding great help. It can truly make or break your business. Luckily, as forward entrepreneurs, we have access to some of the top up-and-coming minds in the nation. If you're a business looking for talented students and interns, visit the Neely School of Business website to learn more about the Entrepreneurial Intern Scholars Program. They're actively looking for placements for their incredible students. They're doing amazing things, and it's exciting to see the next generation of entrepreneurs grow and flourish right here in our city.
And was Clayton your husband? Was he doing Whole30 with you?
He's never done a full Whole30. He usually is like a 2-week 30er.
Okay. So was he like when you were like, I'm doing this thing?
But he's always like, oh, this is great. Like he's like my little Gordon Ramsay at the house. Like he's really honest and.
Will he shoot you straight if it's?
Oh yeah, and my kids too. I've got 3 of them now.
Yeah, they don't hold back.
No,
oh, you have 3. You have 3 kids?
Well, no, but he's
him,
one.
Yeah,
he's my big bit.
2 in 1. I get you.
But being able to like kind of cook something and be like, all right, now I know this isn't the real deal, but tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Or just, playing with new flavors too, like seeing what you have in I think the whole thing of creating recipes is either you're inspired by something that you've already had, or you're inspired by the ingredients that you have on hand, or ingredients that are in season, or, things that you've traveled and explored and new flavors and cuisine. So I feel like food is art. You're constantly being inspired by the things that you're around. And that's really where the inspiration for my recipes comes from. It's from everywhere.
So you were doing the Whole30 and you just gumbo. You said, I'm going to make a gumbo.
Yes. Those were my first things I remember doing. And then being like, whoa, I crushed it.
And so that you said I crushed it. So that kind of unlocked. Was it like a challenge?
And I was like, then I was like, it became this fun like challenge to be like.
And you're documenting it kind of the whole time.
And I think that's like, people would be like, oh, these are these Whole30 recipes. But I think that's the beauty about my recipes too. A lot of people have never even done a Whole30 before. They love my recipes. Have you done a Whole30?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I did like a miserable Whole30.
Did you eat grilled chicken and broccoli?
Yes, it was like, it was sad. And then we discovered.
Yeah, and then you discovered the world of flavor of the defined dish.
I've done a couple of, and I eat like now we eat like that just 90% of the time. My wife has rheumatoid arthritis, RA, and so she has to eat low inflammation. And
Got it.
We're gluten-free and all that stuff. But now, like, the first time it was miserable because it was literally like chicken.
And I think a lot of times, and when I go on my book tours, I hear this, it's like, not only do I love your recipes because I need to eat this way because I have a certain dietary needs or whatever, but like my husband likes it too. My kids enjoy it. Everyone's happy. So it's a triple win for everybody because it's got the big flavor where you don't feel like I don't consider it a diet at all. Like it's not.
I think it tastes better.
It's just a real food
real food tastes better.
Yeah,
it tastes way better.
Yeah.
So take me back to so you started a blog, and I think we have this romanticized idea of a blogger or an
Yes.
influencer.
It's not all rainbows and butterflies.
It's a lot of
folks.
work.
It's actually a real pain in the ass sometimes.
Can you like so you're
No, I love it.
you're a new mom. You were a new mom.
Yeah. So basically, I would make the recipes, photograph the recipes, edit the photographs, edit the blog posts, and then get it up. I used to have a quicker turnaround because I wasn't planning ahead to like send it off to go be photographed and all the things. So that was kind of like, and I had a goal every week to do at least 3 new recipes. That was like my consistency.
How many hours a week would that take?
Like
that's a
yeah, and I think the other part of it is the social media aspect. The blog time, I couldn't tell you how many hours that takes. I think it just depends on the recipe and how many tries it took me to get it right and all the things.
You're trying the recipe a few different times.
Oh yeah.
So you get it wrong sometimes.
Oh, and most of the time, I think that's really important as a recipe developer too, is not to just throw a recipe up right after you've done it one time. I think every now and then you're like, bam, I know for sure this is foolproof, it's perfect. But usually there's always something that you could do to make it better or to tweak it a little bit or
so you're taking the 2 to 3 hours, actually go get groceries.
Yeah, and I'll kind of, and throughout the week I'll be testing-ish the recipe, like just for dinner without shooting it. And then I'll be like, okay, now.
So you make the same thing a couple times in a week?
Sometimes,
okay,
yeah.
So
or it'd be like, I would go back and
tonight.
forth. Yeah. Oh yeah, sometimes we would have the same thing a lot of time. And then getting to the point where I'm like, okay, now it's ready to like really write it down and photograph it and get it up on the blog. And now that's a similar thing to what I'm doing now, but it's like, all right, we're going to get the recipe developed and then we're going to send it off to our girl, Sasha. She's going to photograph it. And then we get it on the blog. We put a lot more work into SEO and stuff now.
Are you writing the captions and stuff?
Katie and I are the...
So you're taking... But in the early days, you're taking pictures.
Oh yeah, I did all of that. I did soups to nuts. Yes.
That's a lot of time and a lot of...
Yes, it was a lot.
And are you...
So one trick pony.
But people don't know how much time
a lot of trick ponies.
that takes. Like,
yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a fun job and it's so rewarding and creative. And then after you put it up, then you see people cook it and tag you in it and you're like, yes.
Yeah, that's your high five.
It's so exciting. Yeah, it's your high five.
Are you sitting there? Take me through your process of like, where do you come up with your ideas? Are you like, I wake up in the morning and I sit and I have a journal and this would be a fun idea, like a gumbo.
Well, I think that's what's so different about like if I'm developing a book or if I'm developing for my blog. For the blog, it's kind of like, all right, what's the season? What are people cooking right now? What kind of recipes are we needing to make for next month? Because everything's kind of a month in advance.
Are you doing that in an intentional time or does it just happen to come to you at random times?
A little bit of both. Okay. But it kind of like hones me in on like what kind of content am I looking to develop for this month?
And
that helps me kind of focus.
Unpack the discipline of that for me because it sounds organic, but I know
I'm so disciplined. I'm just kidding. But it is organic for sure.
But it's like it's not like while you're playing with the kids, you probably are like, I'm sitting.
I have a notes app. I just have like notes up on my phone with it's like scratch paper, but it's just in my phone. I'm like ideas. And then also for the book, it's different because you're creating a chapter and you want the chapter to flow. Like if you have like a certain technique that you did or flavor profile in one recipe, you don't really want to mimic that in a bunch of other ones. So you really kind of have to look. We like put after I developed the recipes for the book, we pin them up on a bulletin board and we're like, all right, we've got, a couple spicy dishes. This one is oven roasted. This one's in a skillet. Like what else can we do to like round out this chapter? So like I said, like with the blog, you're thinking, what are people cooking next month? Like what can we be delivering to help them, make these fun recipes?
But is that like, do you do that in the morning? Do you do that at night? Do you do that while you're cooking?
Like sometimes if I'm on a walk, I'm like, oh, I have a great idea.
So is it just like you're just doing your life and it's just magic popping out?
Yeah, just my mind is always churning about recipe ideas.
So you're more of a like, it just comes to you as you're living life. There's not like...
But like I said too, you could be eating dinner at a restaurant and have, a delicious meatball. Then you're like, oh, this is really yummy. Like, how could I make this at home for the home cook? And make it easier where it feeds the whole family. So there's constant inspiration coming in.
Yeah, you're picking up the phone and
that's just stored in this brain that's not organized, and it just flutters around. And then I have these things that hone them in. Yes, but then I have these moments that help me hone in, like, what am I developing this month?
Explain one of those, like, what do you do to hone it in?
Well, it's what's next month? It's October. It's soup season. There's football going on. There's game day recipes.
Like a month in advance?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're sitting down and saying next month is...
So basically, Sasha's shooting photos right now that will go up on the blog in November. Okay. So I kind of have to create we're almost creating the recipes like 2 months in advance.
So do you have like a Thanksgiving menu and everything all kind of...
I wish we did. This year, Thanksgiving's taking a backseat because we've got side dish launching.
Okay.
And I'm working on my 3rd cookbook.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's been a little busy behind the scenes. My blog is still going. We still got recipes coming out, but they're definitely not being churned out as quickly because, you can only be so many places at once. But whenever the book slows down, the blog recipes will take a front seat again.
Yeah, but the book is like, and when you got asked to write the book, you like, do you hire a copywriter? Or are you writing everything for that?
So you have a publisher.
A publisher, and they're
so basically the whole process is negotiate and sign a deal, and then
was that kind of fun negotiating? Like,
that's the literary agent does, thankfully, because I'd probably do it for free.
But you had to educate yourself on all, like,
yes, for
royalties
sure.
and
for sure. And my first book deal to my second book deals look night and day different.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In a lot of good ways. But I think with what'd you ask me again?
Well, just like writing a book.
Writing a book. Yes, the process of writing the book. Thank you. So you start off. You kind of go like. After you sign, it's kind of like, all right, go make the recipes. And you kind of are in the dark for a while. I've been, since May, I'd say, we've been working on the book hardcore every month.
The new one that's coming out.
Yes, then the 3rd book.
And are you allowed to say what that is?
I could say a little bit about it, but we don't really have a title nailed down with the whole publishing team because everybody has opinion about the title. But it's more of what you guys love. It's like really focused in on simple weeknight dinners.
Okay.
And like even more focused than the other two. Like the other two have that as a huge emphasis, but this is like, if it can't be done in a skillet and there's multiple things happen at one time, it's not going in this book.
There's some complicated dishes in the like.
Yeah, and some of the other ones, like you might have a sauce going over here and one thing going over here. Like
simpler.
This is like really honed in on making sure that you're not juggling too many things at once.
I love that, like weeknight dinners. That's a fun phrase.
For sure.
That's one of your.
I'm a weeknight dinner pro. So long story short, you make the recipes and then afterwards then you start going into, we'll go in January, we'll shoot the whole book. We'll go for about 2 weeks to a studio, food stylist, photographer, do the whole thing. I don't send this off to my girl in UK. This is a way bigger production. And then we'll go into editing mode and that will last until about September. And then my book will come out in December because we'll start pre-selling it. And that determines how much they're going to print. It's a whole process.
Wow. And how many recipes will be in the new book? Or
100.
And so you're making 100 dishes.
It's a lot of cooking.
In 2 weeks?
I'm on like recipe 80.
How do you do that? Like how if you're shooting that many and like...
So there's a whole team to make that all happen.
Yeah.
So... and I have a picture for every recipe. That's a very important
every recipe,
aspect.
I'm assuming, takes an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, they're about an hour a pop, I'd say. Just
Are you
depends
doing some
on the
at
pace.
the same time?
So basically, the food stylist kind of runs the show at a cookbook shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kristen, my photographer, who you just mentioned, she'll be set up and she'll be changing lighting for each recipe or anything that needs to be changed. Like if we're like, oh, this one kind of you want it to feel like a warm summer night when you're about to have dinner, and she'll kind of change the lighting for that while the food stylist is cooking the recipe. He plates it and gets it all set up and does all that. But the food stylist has an assistant, potentially two. I'm not sure how this will be my first time working with him. I've worked with him on side dish stuff, but I've always shot it in my house, and I realized that it was just so much stress and so much chaos and such
because all these people are in your
disaster.
house.
I mean, it was so much fun, but there's just food flying everywhere, and it's just people do it in studios for a reason.
So the first 2 books were done in your house?
Yes.
That's a
yes.
fun
And the
little
first
anecdote.
book was literally just Kristen and I. I cooked every single recipe. I styled every single recipe. I've used all my own food props, and Kristen photographed it in a
Wow.
window with no special lighting.
And people
And we
loved
knocked it out of the park.
And people loved it.
Yes, we did. But it was a lot. And so then the second book, I hired a food stylist, realized the magic of having a food stylist on
What a
hand.
weird job.
Yeah. And but you
how
know
do
what?
You get that?
They work their butts off.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
they have to make all, and do you know the term mise en place?
Yeah.
They
yeah.
mise en place the crap out of
Yeah.
everything. I mean, there's just
It's hard.
stuff they'll basically start prepping like a week before or 4 days before at least on the recipes that they'll work on for the week. We'll reset that weekend. They'll probably mise all weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way
That's
we can hit the ground
getting
running.
all the little things ready. And
Getting
in their
all the
proper
little things ready
place.
so that it can come together quicker. Making all the sauces ahead of time. Making anything that just like needs to be done ahead of time so that the recipes come together pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's so I'm a like photography is like a hobby of mine. I love it. Want to be a photographer. And then I had a restaurant for a while, and so I would do the pictures, and it was like
It's
even
hard shooting
a
food.
burger is so hard.
I know, because it just doesn't look the way that you want it to
No,
sometimes.
and
You
you're
got to
like
gussy it up.
Getting up on top of the table, like it was so I understand.
Yeah.
That sounds like a silly thing, like when you hear like a food stylist, but I also wonder like. It's like curling in the Olympics. It's like, how did you discover that's your thing?
I know.
Like, I'm really good at
I know. Yeah.
shaping.
Like, yeah, where'd you get there? I know. I think a lot of people kind of start off in like photo shoots for things and then they realize, oh, this is a career. I also realized this is another fun curling position is there's recipe testers. I send all my recipes to an official recipe tester every time I make a recipe.
And they tell you it's good or bad?
Oh, they give me feedback. They're like, hey, you said,
I'll be a recipe tester.
This girl gets paid. So basically I send her the recipe and there's like, I'll send stuff to like my sister, my mom, my friends to test it.
Yeah.
But they'll just tell me it tastes good.
Yeah.
This girl will be like, you said 5 minutes aside. Mine was really 6 minutes aside.
Oh, okay.
Like down to the nitty gritty.
That's helpful. Helpful feedback is helpful.
Like nitty gritty feedback. And so like she really times it and like treats it like a job because it is her job.
Yeah, what a fun, what an interesting
and so
job.
she'll also edit. She kind of pre-edits before we even send it to our editor too. So it's nice to have another set of eyes. So another great job out there, folks. If you're looking for something,
I'm sure some of your followers would be like, "Sign me up for that."
No, and I do send. I have a whole list of recipe testers that I send it to after my official recipe tester approves everything.
Okay, that's
so
fun.
it's a thing. It's a process.
When your first book came out and it was on the New York Times. Like, can you walk through the moment? Like, were you nervous the night before? Were you like,
well, so
you knew the pre-sales?
Yes,
right?
my editor at the time was like, your pre-sales are amazing. Like, they're definitely in the ballpark to be a New York Times bestseller. But the New York Times bestseller list is like one of those things that we just like don't really know how it works, and sometimes you just don't get on it, and it just depends on the book, and it's kind of like this weird thing that they can't quite put their finger on. So he kind of prepped me that I wasn't going to be on it, basically. And so when I got the email from him, it was just like, you're on the list. I was getting ready for my first book tour event in Dallas that night.
So you're doing a book tour, and that's.
I was doing my book tour event that night. And it was just me and the girls, and I just started screaming. And they were like, what are we screaming about? They were all excited too. And then
what are we
there was
screaming
tears.
about?
And I told them they had no clue what a New York Times bestseller was. But I was like, this is a really big deal for mommy. And I was so excited. It was a moment I'll never, ever forget. So.
Did you go buy it?
My own book?
Yeah.
Of course. I went to like.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go buy it?
It was so crazy because the first book I like kept going to buy it, and it was sold out everywhere.
Nuh-uh.
Like I went to like 4 stores before I could find it.
Are you serious?
Nuts.
What a good feeling.
I know. I was like, did they stock it or is it sold out? They were like, no, everyone's come in. It's sold out.
And were you like, this is my book?
I was like,
did you tell them?
Yeah. My husband was like, it's her book. You know? I was like, yeah, that's fine.
So where'd you finally get it at? Do you remember?
I can't remember where we ended up. I think we went up to the Barnes and Noble by where we live now and ended up finding like their last copy.
And you handed it to the girl.
Yeah.
Did she make the connection? Did she like?
No, because I wasn't on the cover of my first book, so I was just like beaming on my first book.
Uh-huh.
You know, gotta sell it to myself.
And how was the first book tour? The first book
It
tour,
was
I'm assuming, is
amazing.
different than the
Oh,
second
that
book.
was another thing. I didn't know if anyone was going to show up.
Yeah.
And it was all my events got sold out. Everyone came.
On the first one, all the events got sold out?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep. Second one too. People are.
Why do you
I
think
have
it
such a
was?
good community. I mean, I don't know. I wish I knew, but
Was it because of Instagram? Like,
yeah. I mean, definitely the social media aspect is what the connectivity to me and my recipes are.
mhm.
And that's how people know the person behind the recipes is through social media. So while social media has its negative components, there's
Yeah.
also a great way to connect with people in positive ways.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the Defined Dish, the community there is all really positive and super supportive of me. Like I'm still blown away by how supportive my community is, and so grateful.
What do you do to foster that? Like, that doesn't happen on accident.
I mean, I think I'm just really intentional about what I put out and how I do it, and how I create recipes. I don't just do it to put bells and whistles on things. I'm like, is this something that people are going to make in their kitchens and that's going to be successful, or is this something that looks really cool on paper and
Yeah.
they're just going to be ticked off when they try to make it at home?
I think just as a spectator, I think some of it too is you do a good job inviting people into your kitchen
Yeah.
and into the like. It seems like you're inviting me into the process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's my family, and this is my
For
kitchen.
sure.
And like, do you think that's part? Like, people feel like
Yeah.
they know you. They're
Well,
like,
yeah. And I think, that was the difference of like when I did kind of turn it into a business, it was right around when Instagram stories came about because I could share the behind the scenes. I could
Yeah.
share like a little bit more about not only my food, but me, my life, how I create the recipes, and just like how much I truly love cooking.
You love it, yeah.
And I think when people see that, they're inspired to cook too. They're like, oh, well, that looks easy.
Yeah.
And she looks like she's having so much fun doing it. I should
Yeah.
do it too.
And do your kids think it's cool? Like, do they know? Like,
the
they're just
older
7
they
and
get,
9.
yes.
Now they understand, right?
Yeah. My older daughter definitely understands a little bit more than my younger one. She also is off on her own planet that
So is
we all
that
can't
like
figure out.
Is that like 4th grade?
My oldest is in 4th, and the moms at the school are always like, oh, I made your, chicken piccata last night or whatever. So, and her teachers cook my recipes. So she definitely understands a little bit more. And the older that she gets, she's the one that wants to help me out in the kitchen the most. She has and she's very creative. She's got some good ideas too in the kitchen with flavors and stuff, and really great feedback. So when sometimes we'll make like stuff and we'll be like, we got to see what Sutton thinks whenever she gets home, because
she's your critic.
she really does have a good palate and enjoys
And
being a part of it.
She likes getting up there and helping you do it.
For sure.
That's
And
cool.
she came to a couple of my book tour events, but she like hangs on to every word and actually listens and is proud daughter in the front row. And my other daughter's like off playing in the corner with any other kid she can find.
Yeah. So the first book tour was a success, and then the most recent looked like it was like
Yeah, for sure. They were
huge.
both about the same amount of people.
People are like
same
lined up and
hoorah. Yeah.
Was that weird? Was there a moment was that weird for you
It's
going
still
from
weird.
like the people come up? Because I'm assuming like you
It's
have
like I'm so grateful for it because I put so much time and energy in creating the recipes. So to see that people not only care about the recipes but about me and like are there to support me is truly amazing, and it makes me want to like. As soon as you think you're too tired to make more recipes, you go and do this book tour, and then you're like, "All right, I'm ready to make more
Let's keep going.
recipes." Yes,
But it's 700,000 people are following you.
yeah, it's a lot of people.
That's okay. I did this. I had another like person who has a blog, and we were talking about her followers. But that's the equivalent of like the city of Seattle or the city of Denver. It's more people. There's more people than live in Nashville, Oklahoma City, Washington D.C., or Portland.
Yeah.
It's like a giant.
It is a giant community.
Is that trippy?
Yeah, it is kind of trippy when you put it that way.
And what I think is so cool is you didn't set out to like that wasn't.
No, and I think that's the other thing with like social media is like it could be a numbers game, and you can always get more likes and more followers, or it can be a community building game.
Yeah,
and I think for
want
me,
it to
it's
be
like
a community.
100%.
I'm serving these people.
I would rather stay at where I am or where I was after book one and have a loyal, amazing, supportive community rather than have a community that's like just kind of there looking at what you're doing and not really a part of it, I guess.
Yeah. Do like with music, people would always come and be like, hey, like one of the funny things about music is they'd always be like, my brother's in a band, or
Yeah.
my sister's in a band,
Yeah.
or I wrote this, or I play guitar. Like,
Yeah.
they're like want to meet you, and then they want to like tell you.
Yeah.
The
for
people
sure.
come up to you and they're like, check out, I have this recipe idea.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Does that happen sometimes?
Yep, that does. Or like, someone that's, creating their own business in that realm, which I love hearing about because I mean,
Yeah.
I started in the same position, but yeah, there's always like recipe ideas getting emailed to us.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming you have some like super fans that engage
A lot. Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. I have the ones that like I recognize always and get to it's really fun to meet those in person because I'm like, oh, I know your Instagram handle. I feel like we know each other.
Yeah.
We're like Insta friends.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there's some very loyal super fans out there for sure.
And so was it was before the book. Was it before the book that you felt like this is a big deal, this is real, the people like it? What was the moment where you felt like this is a thing and I'm really good at this and this is success? Like,
I mean, honestly, my first book, I was just like
that was the moment.
yeah, I was just like, okay, like
There's no
this
turning
isn't
back.
just a blog. Not that just a blog is a bad thing, because I mean, it was a great business in itself. But
Yeah.
I just realized like this, people showed up for me. I was just blown away. I was just like,
found my
is this
calling.
real life? Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe that this is even happening. So the fact that it was a bestseller and that many people showed up was mind blowing.
And was there any big lessons learned of like, because you're scaling it too, now it's a bigger thing. You talked about the difference between like the first book was just me and Kristen in my house, and
Yeah.
now I have this. What were some of the things you had to do to scale the business, or any
Yeah.
lessons learned? Like I made this big mistake.
I mean, I think there's so many things. I think, when you're a big business like that, there's a lot of growing pains. And for me, it's like, I could be doing things more efficiently. I could be taking the weight off my shoulders so that I can continue to produce content and new recipes, because otherwise you just get so drained, you can't even be creative anymore.
Was that hard for you to delegate and bring in people? Like,
Yeah, for sure. Katie was my angel sent from heaven, because I was getting to the point where I was just like, I am so tired. I
yeah.
don't have the capacity to run the day-to-day operations of all this and try to keep this going to where people want to keep making these recipes and I can continue to create them for people to cook. I mean, there's just no way to do both.
Yeah.
So having someone to really be able to navigate that with me is essential. And then also kind of realizing along the way that there's other things that I could be doing. There's always something that you could be doing more efficiently, and kind of realizing along the way and being able to, let go of some of the stuff that I've always done in-house and be like, all right, it's time to let this go out-house. And the more that I let things go, the more I realize, why didn't I do this sooner? And I realized I could be running like a better oiled machine. And then also it's just, there's a lot of legalities and the partnerships and all these things that I do and contracts and books and having people that I trust behind me.
That's a good lawyer.
I do. And I have a great manager, and it's just that's been a journey too, and kind of like finding someone that was a good fit for me and someone I felt really safe with as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what does a manager do in this
So
world?
she handles she lives in LA, and she handles all of my like partnerships.
Okay.
So I work with like Maiden and all these amazing brands. And she negotiates those partnerships and kind of organizes them to be like, all right, these are your deliverables to how you're going to work with them.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. And she knows that I'm like a no BS. Like I like to work with the brands that I love, and I'm
stuff you believe in.
Yes, exactly. And that's been one of those things that you learn along the way too. It's like you could talk about everything, even if you like. There's so many things that I love that I could talk about, but it's like what makes sense for this community and this page, and that's kind of something that I've had to play with here and there and been like, you know what, that didn't really feel authentic to me to talk about this right here, even though I really do like this product. So let's not do any more of those types of partnerships anymore. And that's been a learning curve for me too. But now we're very high and tight. We are no BS anymore. And I'm grateful that I am able to do that.
I'm going to be very selective about the brands I work
Oh yeah.
with.
We say a lot of no's a lot of no's.
You have
And
to.
I'm grateful that I'm able to say a lot of no's, and I have so many great partnerships in place that are like long-term partnerships.
In line with that, can you talk like what are all the revenue streams? Like you have
It's a lot of different ones. So there's the partnerships. That's probably my biggest earner for me.
That's your biggest. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So a brand saying we're going to pay you to use this and create content around it.
Yes.
Okay.
There's that component. There's the website ad revenue.
And you have ads running on the website.
There's that as well. And then there's my cookbook revenue.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully SideDish, because I put a lot of money in that.
Okay, yeah, we haven't even gotten to that yet.
That's a self-funded investment. Now we're waiting. Hopefully it'll
before Side. Let's talk about SideDish. But your revenue streams are the cookbook, paid partnerships, and
the blog
sponsorships, and then the blog. The revenue from
and then if I
that.
do events and stuff, like that's kind of lumps into paid partnerships as well. I usually we'll do, speaking endeavors and anything like that, and those are most of the time paid.
But you never had a product. You never had a store. Other than the book.
No.
And so SideDish is like, I need a product now because I'm this Coca-Cola brand.
gotta create Coca-Cola.
So unpack SideDish. Like how did that happen?
Okay, so this is actually kind of a fun story. So first of all, 2 parts. I had an opportunity with a brand to do like a line through them years ago.
Okay.
And long story short, it didn't end up happening for multiple reasons.
Okay.
But also I realized during that time, it was like, I hopefully one day could do this on my own and have more control over what ingredients go into it and how the flavors turn out. And it
didn't happen because it was not good?
get a crappy deal. Yes and no. There was multiple reasons, but we won't get into that.
We won't get into that.
But long story short, also when you work with a brand like that, you get royalties off of how much you sell. And honestly, in my particular situation, I was going to make pennies and they were going to make lots of money off of my product. And I was like, this is kind of BS. Like, I feel like I can make a really great product that's going to sell really well. And I'd rather just do it hopefully one day on my own, because I wanted to do that. Because for me, like we've talked about a million times, getting dinner on the table more easily for people and having that big flavor and having those real ingredients is what I'm all about. So to be able to have either a sauce or a dressing or a spice blend to help that all come together more easily is important. So I was on a podcast also years ago, kind of around that time that partnership went to kapoots.
So you're thinking about this in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and I was like, this is something I want to do, but not right now. Like, I mean, it would have to be a self-funded thing. I don't know how to start a CPG company. And so I was like, we'll just sit back on this one. And Clayton and my husband and I were like, one day, hopefully we'll be able to do this. And so I was on a podcast with James Bashira. He has been kind of an angel investor in a lot of stuff. He's done a bunch of different startups. And long story short, after his podcast, he called me and he was like, if you ever get to the place where you want to start your own brand, I'd love to do it in partnership with you. I can help you on the back end of e-commerce. And there's so much that goes into it, from shipping to manufacturing to retail strategy and so much. So long story short, I knew he was the perfect partner for what I wanted to do. I trust him fully. He's an amazing, such a genuine, beautiful person. And
he went to TCU?
His wife did.
His wife did. Okay. TCU
so
connection.
He kind of found out about me through her.
Okay.
And I knew her. She was a year older than me, but not very well. But that's why he had asked me to be on his podcast. So when we connected in person, and he kind of was watching my brand grow, he was like, hey, about that brand, we can do it together. So long story short, I knew he was the perfect person to do it with. And that way I've literally had full control over the flavors, the ingredients, the everything.
And you knew you wanted to do like a dressing?
Well, so then it was like, I knew I wanted like some sort of sauce and, but also salad dressing. It's a multi-purpose salad dressing because it's really some of our sauces, but they're really just a really good condiment.
You can cook with it too.
You can cook with most of them.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's more flavors to come out, but I just wanted to have something where people had that tool to be like, oh, I can use this creamy sesame to make a really great salad that's kind of like got a peanut dressing on it, or I could use it to make a really awesome noodle stir fry. Or if you've ever made my hibachi chicken with magic mustard sauce from my first book, have you ever done that one by any chance?
Probably.
It's a very popular one. It really kind of is the creamy sesame's like that too. So you can kind of do like chicken stir fry and dip it in that. Yeah. But it also, I made it to where it's not heavy on the mustard. You would just need to add that dried mustard powder to your stir fry to make that flavor happen. But there's gonna be lots of recipes on the Side Dish website to where people have these tools in their hands and they can make these like 20-minute meals come together
faster, it's already done.
That are epic. I mean, the flavors are big, they're bold, they're just like my recipes. And like, I am really excited about it because as a consumer, there's becoming more and more products that are clean ingredients, but the flavors just aren't really wowing me. They're good, but I just wanted that that wow factor.
Yeah. Did you have the recipes for those already?
Yes and no. You have to really change things a lot to make them shelf stable.
And you have to figure, shelf stable, and then like, what's the nutrition? You have to. How do you even figure out like the calories and the?
So I'm not a calorie counter, so that's not something that was
important for me. But to have something on the
me.
Shelf, you have to like.
Yeah,
someone
it has
has
that
to,
on there.
Someone has to measure that.
Yes. So there's the food science team at the manufacturer that we are working with that. Make sure that they're shelf stable and safe and foods. They do all the food safety stuff.
Did you come up with a recipe and then say scientists figure out how
So basically,
work?
long story short, like I sent off a recipe. I was naive in knowing how this works, like how I would make it for you to make it.
Yeah.
And then they tried to food scientists and it was terrible. Okay. I was like, what is this flavor? It tastes
so
like trash.
They send it back to you.
Yeah. They're like, well, this is, your recipe. And so long story short.
It's got to sit on a shelf.
Yeah, it has to and so also it has to be Whole30, and a lot of shelf stable products have those preservatives in them to keep them shelf stable. So you have to, the reason to keep them Whole30 and paleo, it's a pH science thing.
Okay.
And so you really have to get the pH right to make it be shelf stable.
Fascinating.
So long story short, we were going back and forth. He was mailing me from my recipe and they just weren't tasting right. So flew to said manufacturer,
food laboratory,
to the food science guy,
food science center
and we just did it in the kitchen together, and that helped me understand more of like developing future recipes, what works and what doesn't. And I've been trying so hard to make like the Caesar salad dressing work, just doesn't bottle right. So it's just one of those things right now until I figure it out. It's going to be homemade for me in the Defined Dish community. And that's where I'm like, I'm not willing to sacrifice something just because I know it's going to sell.
If your name is on
flavor.
it, you want it to be great.
Oh, this should have launched over a year ago.
Oh, really?
But because I'm such a psycho
about
the flavor, we are here over 2 years later, but it's popping. And then you have to figure out, pumped about these flavors.
Bottles and like the packages,
the branding, the whole thing. I mean, we had to go through the process of making sure that cool. And with Side Dish, trying to make sure that was trademarked to our salad dressing line.
It's a great name, by the way.
Thank you. We went through a lot of variations of using Defined and Dish, and like all of them were already trademarked.
I'm surprised Side Dish, no one has done
Couldn't
that.
Believe
Why
it.
has no one done that?
Couldn't believe it. So yeah, here we are, and I'm super. Everywhere we've landed.
Where can you get it?
It's taken a lot of, right now, only online.
Only online.
Get SideDish.com. It's direct to consumer. We're talking with some retail right now. But again, there's a lot that goes into that. You can't just be like, you know what? I want to be in Target tomorrow. And you have to have a lot of things in place to make that operate efficiently.
And is there like someone that, like going back to the nutrition and stuff, like you have to get it approved to sell something that's a food item?
Yeah, I think it's all it's
how does that work?
Food safety, and I don't really know. That's something that the manufacturer does. But it's a whole.
But you're excited about the flavor,
I'm pumped.
This is what you
I want to eat it every night.
Okay.
Genuinely. I am tired. I've been making recipes all day. I want to, and I know that since you would have a lot of leftovers, but I usually divvy them out and things get eaten, some things get tossed because they didn't turn out right. It's the whole thing. So usually at the end of the day, I'm I just want a fast stir fry or a quick salad, or, with the honey Dijon, I really like it. It's great for sheet pan dinners. So they're really good. I think people are really going to love them.
I'm excited for you. And is that Is there going to be, so that you said there's more flavors coming.
Yes.
And is there any other like products in the.
That's the hope
Okay.
that we can create a successful business in the salad dressing section
Yeah.
and then venture off into
Other
another
things.
realm. Yeah.
Like canned.
I want it to be bigger than salad dressings, but
Yeah.
we're going to just
This
take
is a
baby
start.
steps.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I'm assuming
start
it's going to
here.
crush it. Like
I hope so.
it will.
I really hope so. We put a lot of blood, sweat, energy, and cash into this guy.
And you didn't bring on investors, so you did. You're funding
it's just James and Clayton and I right now. So
and it was expensive. Like, how many do you have to initially order to do it?
So
like thousands. You have to order like 1,000 bottles, or like
yeah,
2,000 bottles.
The whole thing. We have 4,000 of each product right now
you
in storage, and they've just done another run of 12,000 each. So
oh my gosh.
we have to pay for all those up front until it can be.
When you get in
until the business flow starts coming.
When you get in that space, like that's the hardest thing.
Yeah,
like
it's a lot. It's expensive.
Have you ever read the Shoe Dog, the Nike story?
No, I haven't read that one yet.
It's a great but their whole thing was, you have to buy all these shoes and this product, and you wait for it to come, and then you front all the money. It's like very cash intensive.
Oh, it is for sure. And I know we're just getting started. There's going to be other obstacles along the way with shipping and all this. Everyone's already prepared me for the worst case scenarios.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, if a batch
did you meet anybody
spoils or anything, it's just, that's our money down the drain.
Did you meet anybody in that space that has done that?
Well, I've developed a lot of great relationships along the way, like the Siete Foods team, the best people ever. Such a great company.
They're in Austin, right?
Yes. And so like whenever I launched, they were like, let us know if you have any questions with shipping, manufacturing. Like we've been through it all.
Yeah.
I also am an investor in Ranch Rider Spirit. So it's not the same realm, but they've been through issues where like they had all these cans that like started exploding and lost all that product. So there's all these things that have happened to brands that I have good relationships with, where they're like, one of these days, something's really going to go wrong. So just call us.
Yeah. That's good to have those.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you talk about your family just a little bit? Like, how do you practical things you do to balance it? Because I like being an entrepreneur. You're always on. You're always thinking about it. Like
for sure, it's hard to clock out.
How do you balance?
Yeah,
I think
it's a constant struggle with trying to figure out how to balance things. And I think each year I get better and then worse in some ways. But I think before it was always trying to balance social media. And I've really got myself in a much better headspace there and realized like it's not worth my emotional and mental space to just constantly be checked in there and perform all the time whenever I really need to just like take care of myself and my family, and then save that energy for whenever I do feel authentic to show up and be on there from a better space. So I feel like I've gotten better at the social media game for sure. But all the other stuff working behind the scenes is a lot, especially with this new business that we're working on. But I think at the end of the day, when my kids get home from school, Katie usually knows it's pretty much time for us to pack up. And like, while we might still go to our respective homes to like get work done and stuff, like it's going to start being a slow trickle after about 3:30 or 4 o'clock, because
do you have an office or do you work at home?
We just work in my kitchen.
Oh, no. Okay.
It's a really great office. I have an office in my house, but
you're
don't
working in your
work
kitchen
in there like ever.
So laptops are out while you're cooking and doing like.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's
funny.
the vision. That's what it looks like. But, really at the end of the day, I got to like help my daughter with homework and do all the things. And I put a big emphasis on dinner time and making sure Clayton's home so that we can all have dinner together.
Yeah.
And so really
what
just
does
kind of
Clayton
having
do?
that. He is in real estate development.
Real estate, okay.
Yeah, land development. So, I think it's just making the time and making sure that you have these things that are consistent in your family's lives. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I still am like the be-all person for everybody in my family. I think most parents are, and it can be overwhelming, but to be like the front of Defined Dish, and then also the person of the family. But I have such an amazing community, amazing husband. My mother-in-law is super helpful. Like if I'm on my book tour, she fills in. I have a
Okay,
great
that's
nanny. So
helpful.
like I have a great community to support me.
It takes help
Yes.
to do.
Oh my gosh.
To do
And
it.
to be able to know that you can't do it all
Yeah.
is like an essential part to, I think, any entrepreneur's being.
And your kitchen like is the one that we see on.
Yep,
like,
that's it.
did you design like are there lights in there? Like is it?
No, but there's a huge window.
Did you design it
that
to,
has
like-
a lot of natural light? But yes, we did have in mind with this new kitchen, like, all right, for filming, we want this nice light, so let's position the counter to be
'Cause
like,
it's like
facing that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So there was some intentionality there.
there was
Yeah.
for sure.
That's fun. One of the things I was wondering is why do you not have a TV show? Is that on the horizon?
You know, it's
I'm assuming people have knocked on your door.
we've had some conversations about
Okay.
potentially doing TV, and I would love to if it's like the right thing. You know, I think kind of going back to social media, you can always do more. And
Yeah.
there's like right now, like with the TikTok world, it's like more is more. You can scream at the camera and like throw your pizza in people's face, you know.
Throw your
but
pizza.
I
You don't
feel
seem like a throw your pizza in people's
no,
face person.
and like I think that's what's different about. I feel like sometimes my brand can be more of the old school, like Food Network style, and a little bit more slow paced and calm. And I don't know that that's really popular right now. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm open to TV if it's the right show and
The
it's
right
something
thing.
where I can really share my recipes and not get super weird with.
Yeah. Do you have any like either as your family or with the company like core values or a mission or just things that you say a lot? I know you said like, you know, food is art and food should bring you joy, but is there any other like just values?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like with Defined Dish at my core, cooking is like a huge part of who I am. Like without that, I would not be myself. I would be
Yeah.
very sad. And if I do this so much and work myself to the ground and don't love it anymore, then all is lost for me. And in a lot more ways than just my business, it's like, you know, just me as a person, as a mom, and like just food defines me in a lot of ways. So making sure that I love it throughout all this, I'm going to cry now, is super important to me because it really is a huge part of me. And now I'm really emotional. I've never cried this much on a podcast. Wow.
But I think that just speaks to your spirit. Like you do it because you love it. You're not doing it because it makes you money.
But anyways, I really love it. And I want to make sure that that's a priority always. So that was the core. And then of course, like, because food is such a big part of my life, I want to make sure, I think being around the table at the end of the day with your family is like so important. It's like where you can connect at the end of the day, where you can unwind and just be present. And that's how I grew up. And I want to instill that in my children so that they can bring their family one day, hopefully around the table, and make sure that they set that intention and importance at the end of the day. Because even though we don't do it every night, I mean, that would be unrealistic to like sit around the table every single night. Like, of course, we love going out to eat and we have other social obligations and school functions and all the things, but really just making that a priority is so important. And so I try to put an emphasis on that. And so Side Dish's kind of motto is for around the table with the ones you love. Like in the middle of our logo, it says that. And so I'm really hopeful to carry on that intention to people as they get this in their home and around their tables. So
I think part of like
boo-hoo, I needed to cry or something.
No, that was good. It was good. But I think like I've kind of pushed you on some of the business stuff, but it all comes back to you. I want flavors that are bold and I want it to be easy and like you love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's been so successful. Like there's an authenticity. Just sitting here getting to hear your story, like there's an authenticity of like you love it.
I do.
That's
really
why
do.
you're emotional. Like
well, and it's just so easy to get caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses with social media and stuff. And I think it's just so important that, you know, as all these creators are getting into this world and there's just so much going on, and every business can operate in a really big capacity on social media now, and just really realizing like at your core what's important to you, and if you're really living, you know, that truth and not getting away from it just because there's so much going on all the time is really important. So
what do you do to stay grounded, like, and healthy? mentally, emotionally, physically? Like, do you have any routines or things
Yeah.
like?
I mean, working out is a huge part of it. Eating healthy is a huge part of it. Making sure I have that time with my family at the end of the day is a
So the
is a
end of
big
the day
part
with the
it too.
family is important.
It's a big one. And then, I mean, I usually work out in the mornings.
Are you a morning person or a night person?
I'm a
or-
big morning
What's
person.
what does your morning routine look like?
Well, I wake up like around like 5:45, 6,
Okay, early.
make myself a cup of coffee, pack lunches, get the kids breakfast on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and then start getting them ready. And then I'm usually off for workout around like when our nanny arrives, like 7:45.
Yeah.
I go to workout and then come back and we hit the ground running pretty soon after that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I'll stop by the grocery store on the way home, depending on the day of the week, and we'll start cooking and start working or doing whatever we need to do for the day until the kids get home from school and crash our work party.
They crashed the work party.
Yeah, they come in hot.
Was there any books or resources or podcasts or anything that were instrumental? Like this book was really pivotal or helpful in my journey, or this person even like.
Well, I think at the end of the day, what I've realized the most pivotal people in my journey have been like my mom and my mother-in-law and my husband. They've been super supportive and really helpful in making sure that everything behind the scenes and family life runs smoothly. And then, as far as a book goes, I read one time whenever I was really struggling with anxiety, I read this book called Many Lives, Many Masters, and I really enjoyed that book at the time. It was
Many Lives, Many Masters.
Yeah, it was a very interesting
And what
book.
is that about?
It's kind of about life and death and like a really weird, unique perspective of it. So I would butcher it if I tried to explain it. And
Okay.
it's been a really long time since I read
Yeah.
it, but at the time it was something that just made me a little bit less fearful about death, I guess.
Yeah. You
It's really dark. I'm gonna cry again. I'm just kidding.
But I'm like, it's interesting to hear you talk about that because you don't seem like someone that has a lot of fear. You seem very like adventurous in what you have done and what you do.
Yeah, I have a lot of fear to other senses. I'm definitely like a worrier.
You're a worrier?
I am.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I think also for me as like a young mom, I struggled with oh my gosh, I've got these kids I got to keep alive. And like, this is just all too much. And so I went through a pretty big spell of struggling with anxiety and just, it was really all fear based, just unrational fears.
What'd you do to combat that? Like
a lot of things. Trying to find a bit healthier routine for myself. It's really like when I found Whole30 eating and clean eating, working out more consistently, being more present, getting more sleep. I mean, just basic needs basically that we all sometimes forget to do because we're just going all the time.
And so part of like the Defined Dish journey is what you put in your body affects.
Yeah.
That
And
as
honestly,
well.
starting the Defined Dish and finding that joy there was
You found your thing.
Yeah, I found my thing. I wasn't flailing looking for where I really belonged anymore.
If you could go back to your younger self, maybe in college or is there any advice that you would say, to yourself 10 years ago or 15
and
years
I'd
ago?
still tell myself this last year. Quit worrying so much about what other people think. I think that
Quit worrying about what other people think.
Yeah, I think I sometimes become a people pleaser just because I want everybody to be happy. It's just my nature. And having a platform like I do, it's impossible to be a people pleaser because
everyone has an opinion.
Yeah, and you can't possibly make every single person happy, and you're not for everybody. And so that's been a really good lesson in life for me. Honestly, I think it's part of my destiny to have this this role and this position is to make me a stronger and better person in that sense. Because I think it's really important that if you are living your truth and you are, being authentic, and at the end of the day, like who you are at the core, someone can't tell you otherwise. Whereas before, I think I would let someone try to tell me who I really was. And now I'm like, I know who I am, and I know I'm a good person.
You've learned those boundaries.
And I might make mistakes, but at the end of the day, nobody can tell me that I'm like an evil person.
And are you speaking specifically to like haters online kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I just think there's just so much expectations with having a platform that sometimes I just can't live up to. And I just can't be everything for everybody. And that's what I've learned along the way for sure.
People love to throw rocks at shiny things.
Yeah.
The Taylor Swift quote.
That's true.
But when you have everyone's a critic. And if you do something meaningful, people are gonna. You're putting yourself out there. There's a vulnerability.
And I think at the end of the day, most people see the intention behind it and see who I am at the core. So,
I would say
some
like
people
99% of people.
And some people pop in and out on Instagram and they say these things and they haven't even been around to like see who you are and they make assumptions off of one, thing or the other. But for the most part, people are pretty nice online.
But don't worry what people think. That's
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Good.
I mean, you can go back to your high school self, your self last year or whatever, and I can always tell myself that one.
Okay, a few quick questions. What is you're not gonna like this, I don't think, but do you have a favorite recipe? Like this is like my thing I'm most
not
proud
answering
of?
that one. No, delete that question.
What is because they're all like your babies.
They really are, and I have so many now. And I am so proud of all of them. And
I'm assuming your newest one is also probably your favorite at the time too.
Yeah, I think it just kind of all ebbs and flows. I really love my second cookbook because that's a lot of the ways that I genuinely cook at home.
Yeah.
It might take a little bit more time and be a little bit more cumbersome than like my first book and then my soon-to-be third. But I like all the recipes a lot.
What's the one you make the most at home? Like, is there one that your kids love? My kids love this, and so I make it all the time.
Winnie's all about like salmon recipes, so she really likes the salmon fish taco bowls. I do those, and we can kind of all build our bowl. And then Sutton from my first book loves the chicken parmesan, the grain-free chicken parmesan.
Yeah,
that's her favorite.
That's
a classic. People really like that
one. She
one.
loves that.
And then Clayton's all over the board. From the last book, the Vietnamese-inspired shaking beef salad. It's one of my personal favorites. If I'm gonna maybe pick a favorite.
Okay.
You're getting a little bit out of me.
This is her favorite recipe.
But that's a few. I really like the salmon al pastor. I love the Szechuan spicy fish. I have a lot of faves.
Do you ever regret it? Like, I regret this one.
Maybe
not in the books, but maybe like...
Okay, this one is bittersweet because this is still one of my absolute favorite recipes.
Okay.
The paleo pigs in a blanket are epic, but they're they're not foolproof. They're
hard to do.
It's a paleo dough that you have to roll them in, and they're little weenies. You got to roll them, and the dough is. A lot of people have had problems with it.
Okay.
So that one, people struggle with. So I hate that it doesn't work for everybody because I literally tested that recipe like 80 times.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea how long it took me to get
user
and
error.
I thought I had it. Yeah, it's definitely the users. I'm just kidding. No, I just think it's just one of those recipes that's just a little bit fickle. So anywho, that's what I don't regret it because I still make them all the time. But I regret putting it in the book. I should have just put it on the blog so I could have more like, here's what will happen if you come across this. I can leave more notes.
Yeah, in the blog you go back and tweak if you needed to.
Yeah, exactly.
The book,
and
there's no tweaking.
When people have errors on those more cumbersome recipes that are a little trickier, I can put kind of those. Here's how to help you if you run across this error or whatever.
Do you have a meal that is like this was just a magical moment? One of my favorite meals I've ever had, whether on a date or with friends or someone's birthday or like just a favorite like top 2 meals.
Oh man,
1 or 2 meals.
I'm trying to think.
It's like at this restaurant.
I mean, I feel like the first time my family took me to Italy, like just eating like a classic pasta with pomodoro sauce on it, I was like, how is this so delicious? And it's just like tomatoes and basil. I feel like that was like a big eye opener for me with food. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so simple, but just the ingredients are perfect.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then trying to think any other ones that really come to the top of my head. Whenever we went to Mexico City, I had a lot of really great meals that I was inspired by. I love the big, bold flavors of Mexico City, and they got really good food. So,
what's your favorite city to visit?
Ooh, that's a toughie. Honolulu, Hawaii is our favorite right now.
Oh, really?
We go for the summer with the family. We've done the last 2 summers, and we plan on going again this summer. But it's just a really good place for my husband and I to really check out and just kind of forget the world exists and just be with the kids and just relax and really unplug. So,
what is favorite meal in Fort Worth? Do you have one? I'm putting you on the spot there.
Okay, so this one is take it or leave it. Because I do think the food is good, not great. But I love a Joe T's moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, when I come back here, I love going with my friends and going to Joe T's.
I love Joe T's.
So I'm a big Joe T's fan until the day I die. It's just fun.
The experience, like the margaritas and
Yep, it's the whole thing.
I love the food. Like you can't be.
I probably will have a better answer once I think about it a little bit more. But
what? I'll take it. I'll take that.
Yeah.
What's next? I know the
new book,
New
side
book.
dish. That's next.
That's consuming for a while. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking
That's a big
for sure.
thing. And then what does what does legacy mean to you? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, as your kids are older, what do you want people to have taken away from what you have done?
I mean,
your kids or your family, your people, your following, your community.
I think, what we've talked about is just making people enjoy cooking and loving it. It's something that's so small that, should be a part of our everyday lives, but I think that magic has been lost. So I'm hopeful the more people that I can bring that magic back into their lives, I'm happy with. So,
Yeah.
And I hope my kids see that it can be something so simple that you can make a huge impact on people's lives. But I think at the end of the day, I just want my kids to be proud of what I've done and set up and built from nothing, and really realize that they can do anything that they set their minds to do at the end of the day.
I think you've done that. I think for sure. I think
Thank you.
I think you have done that and are doing that.
Yes.
Even just in my family. I mean, it's like, as an entrepreneur who does a lot and juggles a lot, and I'm always on the go, it's hard for me to slow down. It's hard for me to be present. I've really had to learn the value of like dinner and a meal is not about food. It's about taking the time to make something and sit down with these people. It's like, and I've had to teach myself that and learn that. And, but your recipes are a big part of that. And
well,
so
good. I'm glad to be part of it.
I think you're doing it. Well, I appreciate you being on here and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
It's inspiring. It's cool. You're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This was great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.